Welcome to Shiny New Clients, the marketing podcast that helps you attract shiny new clients to your business. We'll talk about social media, what makes people buy, how to go viral, and marketing psychology, all in 20 minutes or less. Whether you're a coach, a stylist, or a wedding planner, if you've got a service-based business to sell, this is the show you need to fill your calendar. I'm Jenna Warriner, your new marketing coach, and this is Shiny New Clients. Can I just say that you just clicked to listen to a podcast about hiring, and that is a huge freaking deal. Because if you are even tickling the idea of hiring someone to support you, that means that your business is at a really beautiful place, whether you're hiring your first person or your 10th person. If you're hiring your 10th person, rock on. You're probably going to resonate with a lot of the mistakes that I made that I'm about to share regarding hiring. And if you're about to hire your first person, you are probably shaking in your boots, questioning whether you can afford it, whether it's worth it, whether it's the right time. So let's break it down. Let me tell you a little bit about bringing on support as a service provider. If you're operating as a solopreneur and it's time to bring someone else to support you into the business, whether that is a dedicated contractor or a virtual assistant or someone a couple of days a week or whatever, I'm going to share with you a few mistakes that I have made in my many years in business in hiring and a few lessons to get you ahead of the game. Let me give you some lessons that I learned so that you don't need to learn them. Won't that be fun? I'll tell you a couple things that I went through that I experienced in hopes that you lurch forward faster than I did. About a month ago, I was in British Columbia, Canada, on sort of a mastermind retreat up in the mountains with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And on my way home, I saw online that a friend of mine, Paige, was in Manitoba, about an hour from where I live. And that is wild and crazy for two reasons. One, because no one goes to Manitoba. I'm up here in the middle of Canada. It's not a very populated place. It's not really a destination where I am. And so she was here, which was so cool. The other reason that this is wild is because I had never met Paige in real life, but she was an instrumental part of my life and my business. This is a virtual business that I run. I have a social media management agency, and I have my program, Magic Marketing Machine, where I teach service providers how to get clients from Instagram through an online program and online coaching. So everything is through the computer. That's how I can be out here in the woods right now. And when I started my business, it wasn't only on the computer. I used to sometimes meet clients, go take photos for them, show up at their place of work. Maybe I'd work for a bar and I would go to the bar and take photos, stuff like that. But a big portion of it has always been online as a social media management agency. And so one of the first people that I hired was Paige. And she says we had met one time before at like a cabaret bar, but I was performing. And so she saw me, but I didn't really see her. And then after that, I hired her through a Zoom interview, and we lived together on Zoom and in Slack and through email. And I had never seen her legs. I had never met her. I had never hugged her. And this was years ago that she worked for me, and she was my right-hand woman when I first launched my group program. So when we first launched Magic Marketing Machine years ago, she was there with me through the launch. She sent flowers that showed up at my door on the day that the cart closed. It was a huge deal, and she was with me for years. And I consider her a close friend, and I had actually never seen her before in real life. So when I found out she was in Manitoba, I was like, drop everything. I'm coming to you. And as soon as I flew home, I went out and met her at a Starbucks and just gave her the biggest squeeze. And it really feels like I've known her my whole life. Like, we know each other so well. But it's just crazy that I'd never actually met her. And Paige also owns a very large business, and she's done a ton of hiring and had a huge staff. And so, of course, we had to talk shop. We had to talk business. And one of the things she brought up was, she goes with this like sparkle in her eye and a big smile. She goes, "Do you remember hiring me? Like, do you remember my interview?" I'm like, "Yeah, I absolutely do." She She interviewed like a pro. She was excellent at it. I was convinced that I needed her, and I had interviewed quite a lot of people for her role. And then we both laughed about how inappropriate she was for the role. Like, we both started laughing in this Starbucks in Manitoba about how I probably shouldn't have hired her. One of the main reasons being because we are so similar. And that kind of circles me to the first rule of hiring is you don't want to hire people that are just like you, right? That's two mentalities, that's two styles of problem solving, that's two styles of skill set that you're just duplicating instead of expanding your business's abilities, right? So hiring someone that you feel like you're really similar to, not typically recommended. Would I go back and change it? Absolutely not. I love Paige. And also, it would confuse people because my handle on Instagram is Jenna's Page with an I, because Paige is my middle name and it's her first name. So then people would start DMing me being like, hi, Jenna and Paige. Like, it was confusing. Anyway, I wouldn't go back, but I did learn a valuable lesson from that, which is to hire people who are different than you. Paige only ended up leaving my business because her business grew so substantially, and eventually she couldn't do both and she didn't need like a part-time job anymore. And like I said, she continued to grow her business into a whole freaking empire. And that's wonderful. And it just goes to show how similar we are. It's basically having two CEOs, right? Two people with, instead of having complementary skill sets, just the same skill set duplicated. Here's my seamless segue into the next lesson. 2 weeks ago, I was at a baby shower and I was talking to my friend's dad, who's this retiree who spends all his time golfing, smile on his face all the time, my buddy's dad. He got to talking to my husband about where they both used to work together, which is in sort of a corporate setting. And they were shooting the shit about life in that job. And one of the things he said was people will do the same job for $30 an hour as they will for $50 an hour, or something to that effect. And that really got me thinking. And I actually questioned him, like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, money's not always a motivator for people in terms of the quality of the work that they're doing. Someone's going to show up to work and they're going to do the quality of work that they're capable of and interested in doing, and raising the amount that you pay them doesn't necessarily change that. I thought that was a really fascinating outlook. And one thing that I have learned about choosing the rate to pay someone is to pay fairly, pay well, but don't pay generously. And the reason for that is because going into my business, I want to pay everyone so much money. I want to pay everyone so much money. And sometimes my books are like, oh, maybe don't do that. I have overpaid people substantially and to a detriment to my own business. And that's because of my own values. And in some ways, I guess that's a good thing. But in order to create a sustainable business, you've got to have profit. You can't just pay someone a ton because you want to be a generous person. You need to make decisions as your business's, operating manager, and make smart decisions based on the amount of money that you have coming in, and look at your books and talk to your husband who's an accountant and figure out what you can truly afford to pay people, not just overpay because you want to and because it gives you an ego boost, but at the end of the day hurts the business, because if the business closes down, nobody's getting paid. Or if you overpay someone and set an unrealistic expectation and then have to fire them, nobody wins, right? So maybe you're out there and you're like, yeah, duh. Or maybe you're out there and you're a bleeding heart like me and you're like, oh, thanks for saying that. That gives me permission to pay fairly and pay well, but not over generously. So if money's not the motivator necessarily to get quality work from people, what is the motivator? This isn't my area of expertise. Maybe this would be a good thing to have a guest on the show come and talk about. But I do remember one time when I was just a couple years into my business and I was having a management challenge, and I phoned a girl that I barely know because I remembered that she was an exceptional manager and geeked out on the premise of managing people. Like that was her nerdy thing that she'd learned so much about and was really good at. And so I called her to help me with this problem. And I can't even remember exactly what the problem is, but I definitely remember the takeaway from the conversation. And the takeaway from the conversation was to find out where people want to go next. Find out what drives people and where they want to go next, and find jobs that you can give them within your organization that help them achieve that goal so that they can stay motivated in their current role because it feels like a stepping stone towards where they want to go. Say you have a clothing store and you have a cashier, and the cashier's real dream is to be a fashion designer. Well, maybe you could let them style the mannequins or do some merchandising at the front of the store so they can get a little bit of that experience and feel motivated in that task. When I hired my current director of operations, we tried to find a title for her that would help her get the next job that she wanted. Like, where do you want to go after this, a few years down the road, hopefully? And can we give you a title and responsibilities that will help you get that job, the one you actually want, and use this as a stepping stone? Again, not my area of expertise, just a little bit from what I've learned and sort of keep in the front of my mind. But one thing that I do believe to be true is to find out what your team is really freaking good at and put them into that role. So if you discover that someone that you work with has a superpower in a certain area, let them use their superpower. It is better for everyone. And it's fun. It's fun to help people thrive, and it's fun to thrive. Next up is to buy back your time, which is the name of a very popular book, and I recommend you read it. It's about hiring people that take tasks off your plate so that you can have time to do more important things. So I think that in the beginning of my business, it was really easy to look around and be like, okay, here's a task, there's a task. I guess I could give that one away. But it was really important to hone in on what was most time consuming, and ideally something that is time consuming and a bit repetitive so that it can be easily taught to someone. And knowing that in that process of teaching someone that, it's going to take more time, and that is your investment to win back time later. Bringing a new person into your organization at any time, people, you always say that hiring is expensive, right? The application process and the hiring process and the training process, it's expensive and it's time consuming. And there's going to be some moments in that process, especially when you're doing it for the first time, that you're like, oh my goodness, was this even worth it? This is way worse than trying to do it all on my own. And if you feel that, I want you to hear my words and remember them. That's normal. That's part of the journey. It's normal. And it is so worth it, because you can't be by yourself forever. Well, you can be. You can be a solopreneur forever, but do you want to? If the answer is no, you don't want to have to do every tiny task forever and ever, then you're going to have to hire at some point, and you're going to have to go through that icky, muddy moment when it feels like it's more work than it's worth to get to the other side. This last one may shock you. It may shock you because I'm basically about to tell you not to hire my social media management agency. But you know what? I'm here to be real with you. A lot of the time when business owners hire, they're trying to pay away the problems. And I've seen this many times in my social media management agency. I mean, by the year 2020, I had already had 20 retainer clients. I've seen inside a lot of businesses, and I have seen a lot of businesses who are unclear on their messaging. They're unclear on, why people should work with them, how to get people to work with them, what they need to say, who their brand is, all of the essential marketing homework that we do inside Magic Marketing Machine. And they skipped that part. And now they're hiring a social media manager and saying, here, fix it. And there's been a lot of clients where I would do that. I kind of ran almost a more white glove service where I'm like, here, I will do all of your marketing. I'm not just running your social media. I'm also sorting out your messaging. I'm also writing your sales copy. I'm also figuring out why people should buy your thing and writing copy that sells and writing your sales pages and inventing all of that for you. But that is, well, one, it's crazy that I did that for people as a social media manager, because you can't be expecting a social media manager to do all of that. And that was me over delivering because I didn't realize what I was doing, which is fine. Again, I don't regret it. I got so much experience by doing that. By over delivering, I became very good at what I do because I got so much experience. Anyway, it's normal to want to outsource your marketing because you're like, I don't like my marketing, but understanding how to market your business is a required skill for having a hugely successful business, and trying to just pay away a problem without actually figuring out what it means to market your business, I don't think it's in anyone's best interest. And now we're a lot more careful about the clients that we take on and very clear that we're not problem solving a broken business. We are using social media to amplify that pre-existing message, except for when it comes to Magic Marketing Machine, when folks show up and I will teach you how to do all the things. Hey, good luck out there. It's scary, but I hope that you can kind of hear between the lines in this audio recording that all of my mistakes made me stronger, and I don't take back any of them. Every single hiring mistake, every wrong person, every wrong rate, every miscommunication that I've had with my team has made me better. And there's very few people who are going to get it right the first time. So go ahead and dive in. And I wish you all the best of luck in your hiring journey. Let's grow that beautiful business of yours. I'll see you in the next episode.